We reveal the impact. Welcome to the Polity, your deep dive into the forces shaping governance, policies, and power. From the halls of government.
You were there. I was not there. Check the record. Wait now. You were there. I was not there.
To the voices of the people.
We are suffering. This suffering is too much. It's too much. Look at the students. There's no job. They finish school. There's no job for them.
We analyze the undercurrents, expose the intrigues, and break down the narratives that define our democracy. Dr. Tony Olisa Mbeki delivering razor-sharp analysis, and Ebuka Franklin and Chisom on the question wheel, driving the conversation. We bring you the most compelling discussions on governance, policies, and power plays. Stay informed, stay engaged, stay ahead. The Polity, every weekdays at 9:15 a.m. Exclusive on Udala 104.7 FM Onitsha.
Former Anambra State Governor Mr. Peter Obi and of course Labour Party's presidential candidate in the 2023 presidential election has been embroiled in a war of words with the FCT Minister Nyesom Wike over statements that Mr. Peter Obi made following his visit to some schools in the FCT where he decried the rot in those schools. He talked about the fact that the facilities were dilapidated beyond repair and some of them do not have basic wash facilities. I'm talking toilets and, basic sanitation facilities and also potable water. And of course, yesterday, Professor Joash Amwito was screened by the Senate. So to say that he is just a couple of steps in to being a NEC chairman. As a matter of fact, the likes of the Punch newspaper already referred to him as the national chairman of the Independent National Electoral Commission. And of course, I've been looking out to see his swearing in, but I haven't seen anything concrete about that. But he has promised that in his time, there will be free, fair and credible elections, and in his words, losers will congratulate winners. And of course, yesterday, pressure increased on the president, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, to drop or have the list of people he pardoned. Criminals that he pardoned in the last list of presidential pardon that was released. There's been pressure, and there are speculations that list is going to be reviewed, and possibly some of the persons that people find really wanting are going to remain in custody. They won't be released as was supposed to be if that pardon list had been accepted. And of course, yesterday, the court said, following report from the National Medical Association, that Mazen Nnamdi Kanu is fit, he's healthy, and can stand court trial. Therefore, the court has said he remains in the custody of the DSS. Yesterday, also, some protesters mounted at the Senate, saying that Nnamdi Kanu's calls for Nnamdi Kanu to be released are not proper. In their words, who is going to fight for those who died in whatever cause it was Nnamdi Kanu was championing? All of those matters we're going to be looking into on today's edition of The Polity on Udala Radio 104.7 FM. Good morning to you and welcome. I am Chisom Chinedu, and of course, Dr. Tony Olisa Mbeki is here to do justice to all of the matters on our desk this morning. Good morning, Tony.
Good morning, Chisom Chinedu. Good morning, Nigerians. Good morning, the good people of Southeast. Good morning, India Anambra. Good morning, Onitsha. Wherever you are listening to us from, it's always a pleasure. And we must also say that we are happy being here as we are back to do what we know how best to do. And that wouldn't be possible if not for the mercy of the Almighty God, who has made everything possible in our times. So it's a pleasure to have you. Sit back and let's talk about some of these developing issues.
All right, then we're going to go first to the papers and tell you what the front pages say. On our desk this morning, we have the Vanguard, the Punch, we have This Day and the Guardian newspapers. And starting on the front page of the Punch newspaper, the banner headline here is Under Pressure. Tinubu may drop controversial names from pardon list. The rider here, AGF probes presidential pardon list as NDLEA, ICPC, police allege name smuggling by committee. This is on page 2. Beside the nameplate of the paper, PDP crisis, court freezes convention plans on page 43. And above the nameplate of the paper, Nigeria missing as IMF lists Africa's fastest growing economies. On page 29. Why are we not there, Tony? Especially since we believe, or we have been made to believe, that we are on the track of recovery and our economy is picking up. And was it not yesterday we talked about inflation rate dropping to about 18.02% from about 30 point something it was not just long ago. Abure taunts OT-led ALP faction over infighting on page 7. Military declares war on new terror group Wulo Wulo. On page 43 was Lakurawa at a point, and now we have Wulo. Interesting. INEC to review lecturers' roles as Senate confirms Amputon. On page 2, Hajj, Saudi Arabia slashes Nigeria's camp slots to 67,000. Tony, where did they see money? 67,000 Nigerians are going to Saudi Arabia for pilgrimage, and I am just wondering, this is a slash. What was the figure like before the slash? Again, where is the money coming from? I also remember that there were some subventions made by the government to make this possible. And again, I ask, how many Nigerians would that benefit? It isn't just about the rich getting to benefit of the common patrimony of Nigeria. All right, man burns ex-girlfriend inside Oyo barracks on pages 4 and 5. For things like this to not happen inside barracks, oh my God, where is safe? A bandits kill 5 policemen, 3 guards in Zamfara on page 42. Zamfara is in mourning insecurity. Chimamanda Adichie, now I'm going over to This Day newspaper, pardon me, and this headline on page 39 says, Chimamanda Adichie bags 3 prestigious European awards. Congratulations to her, she's been steady doing big things. On page 10, FG, over $1 billion private sector investment mobilized to boost CNG adoption. There is a rider, Bloomberg, Dangote refinery slashes crude purchase by over 50%, fueling supply concern. And of course, beneath the nameplate of the paper, Senate confirms Ankweton as INEC chair. That's on page 10. And FG, presidential pardon still under review, no convict released yet. And there are riders. The story is also on page 10. Says government taking final look at list for remedial purposes. Appreciates citizens' vigilance. Constructive feedback. Declares reaction demonstrates Nigerians are or care about justice and good governance. Herbert Macaulay's family canvasses restoration of legacy. And these are the stories you'd find on the front page of This Day newspaper. And of course, right on the front page of This Day newspaper, you'd see talks about the Ofala of Onitsha, which is happening today. Today is Friday, and the Ofala proper is happening today. And of course, just also let you know that Udala Radio 104.7 FM is the official media partner of the Ofala this year. And so everything you need to know about the Ofala proper, which is supposed to start at 9 a.m. today, would be brought to you live here. If you were here with us yesterday night, you would bear witness to the fact that we were live at the Patterson Auditorium inside All Saints Cathedral, Onitsha here, where we had a night with the major telecom sponsors. And of course, it was quite an interesting time with a lot of celebrities who came to town. Talk about Casey, the crew of Limpopo. Talk about Kiki. Talk about the likes of Ike Mazeli. Talk about Onyo Bodo, the comedian. It was quite a time. A time was had, and of course, everything happening today, tomorrow. We're definitely going to be bringing it to you live and on our social media handles at Udala Radio 104.7. You can catch up on everything about the Ofala. Now we move to the Guardian newspaper and some of the stories it find on the front page. Big stories here. More music, less manifesto. How praise singers override party agenda, scorecards at rallies. This is on pages 4 and 5. Big issue there, but who is willing to ask the questions and who is even going to be answering? The people have gotten so used to mediocre, I dare say. NBA, Spittle, please agree to review tinted permit policy on page 27. Obi, wicked trade words over 2027 presidency capacity to lead on page 29. Aviation experts kick as Scalo accuses pilots of smoking marijuana on page 20. And heavy reliance on all domestic debt exposed Nigeria to financial risks, IMF warns on page 6. Defections, legal disputes rock PDP as APC governors project strength, unity in Kebbi. This is on page 6. Presidential pardon under review, says AGF as Macaulay's family pushes back on page 7. World Food Day, FG tasked on support for local farmers, equitable distribution on page 7. NMA says Kanu fit for trial as Ohaneze group advocate dialogue on page 29. And then on the Vanguard newspaper, banner headline, INEC, in my time, losers will congratulate winners. That's from Ankweto. The story is on page 5 and it has riders. Get Senate confirmation as INEC chairman promises to work with NIMSI, NCC, others to improve polls. And will audit IREV to identify glitches that undermined 2023 elections. Says he was never in Tinubu's election legal team. Electoral Act amendment suffers setback. And also on the Vanguard newspaper, you'd see national grid losses. 4,091 megawatts per hour in September on page 19. We've not released inmates pardoned by Tinubu. The AGF is saying that on page 2. Suicide takes center stage as Vanguard's third mental health summit holds today on page 7. Presidential pardon. Macaulay shouldn't have been lumped with ex-convicts. The family is talking now on page 10. Speaking about suicide taking center stage, this year's mental health summit held by the Vanguard newspaper. Yesterday, I came across a headline that talked about the ban proposed on insecticide, as insecticides are one of the leading aiders of suicide in Nigeria. And on the front page of the Vanguard newspaper, you'd also see this. Users' rapid data depletion threatens telecom sector growth. On page 14, the riders here sector's $1 billion gain at risk. Subscribers accuse telcos of manipulations, threaten class action. Telcos dismiss our allegation as baseless. Well, they're manipulative. I am a Nigerian, I can tell you. They keep popping up some weird messages on you, and before you know it, you're subscribing to things you do. You know the way they pop up these messages and these subscription plots, I dare say, you don't see it coming, and you just touch your phone button and boom, you get congratulations, you've subscribed to this. We are going to deduct this and that, and opting out, come off it. That's a Herculean task. On the front page of the Vanguard, Rivers revokes a 134 billion naira contract awarded by IBAS. Orders refund on page 12. Tony, has the drama started? The review of the things IBAS did in office. And of course, we asked, is Fubara going to really do all of this? It looks like he's doing it. And the man is he going to get his executive status back, Tony, with him doing stuff like that now? Because you said you took away the executive governor status. So is he going to get it back now? Because it looks like he's executing. 2027, APC moles have taken over INC. Scribe cries out on page 9. And on the sports column of the Vanguard newspaper, 2026 World Cup playoffs. 14 billion naira windfall from FIFA awaits NFF if... You better pick up a copy of the Vanguard to see details of that story. And we're going to start off the conversation this morning with the screening of Ankweto yesterday. If you just joined us, this is the Polity on Udala Radio 104.7 FM. And what we do here is to take a look at happenings in and around the nation, keep you updated on what is happening, and of course, make sense of all of these developments. And so we're going to the story of Amunpeton's screening yesterday. According to the Vanguard, he said, in my time, losers will congratulate winners. That's talking about the national chairman of the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, Professor Joash Amunpeton. Yesterday, he began his tenure on a promising note, assuring that under his watch, elections will be so credible that losers will congratulate winners. He said he will accomplish this with the support of relevant agencies like NIMC, NCC, that's the Nigerian Communications Commission, and others. He spoke in the Senate before and after the Senate confirmed his appointment by President Bola Tinubu as a NEC chairman. He said our ultimate goal is to make elections so credible that even the losers will be able to congratulate the winner in good faith, just as the judge delivers judgment and both sides accept it is as fair and just. Tony, you saw this coming. You knew that this man was going to get confirmed. And of course, he has started making promises. How do you feel about these?
We all followed his screening yesterday, whether you call it screening or interview or confirmation, because I have listened to some senators, they say they don't screen. All they do is to confirm. But we know very well.
What does the Constitution say about that rule?
The Constitution says subject to Senate confirmation.
Oh, okay.
Subject to Senate. But how do you confirm? Because for you to confirm, you must screen. Do you confirm what you don't know anything about?
Oh, well, tell me about rubber stamp again.
That is another thing. You know, when they are called rubber stamps and they try to deflect it by saying that we only confirm, we don't screen. I think I was just trying to borrow the works of Aline Dume. My dear, you cannot confirm anything if you don't screen that thing, if you don't review that thing. If I ask you now, please, can you help me confirm if this person is a nice person or not a nice person?
I've got to take a look at it.
That is the screening part of it. But that's, by the way, that's not what we are talking about. We're talking about Amunpeton. Amunpeton, remember, you referred to him as new INEC chairman. He has not been sworn in. So it is expected that Mr. President will do justice to that. Under section 154 of the Constitution, the President appoints the INEC chairman subject to the confirmation, like I said earlier on, and then immediately after the confirmation, it's expected that he will be formally sworn in as the new INEC chairman, and it's expected that Mr. President will do that, or he can delegate that to anybody he wishes. Having said that, Amunpeton was asked a series of questions, but I like the way he spoke yesterday. He started by introducing himself, how he began life in Kogi State, Ayetoro Bede, in the Jemu local government area of Kogi State, and is in Kogi West Senatorial District, just like I said earlier on. And he talked about how he got enrolled into Kwara State Polytechnic. From there, he moved to the University of Jos to study law, and how he became the best graduating student of his time, and he won all the awards, according to him, available awards at that time. And in fact, he was serving during youth service. He got his appointment letter to become graduate assistant at the same University of Jos. So we listened to those stories yesterday. He narrated those stories very well, leaving room for anybody that had thought that probably he skipped something or not. So that is one. And then he was asked a number of questions, some of them very pertinent, some of them political. There's no doubt about that, because we expect some political questions. We also expect some constructive questions and objective questions as well. So, but you know, when he was asked how is he going to restore the electoral confidence that Nigerians have lost confidence in the electoral system, I think that was the first asked by the Senate President. And then he did say that he was going to do everything possible to ensure that he restore back the electoral confidence. How are you going to do that? Because that's just the issue we should be talking about. Because anybody can tell you, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. But the key thing is, how are you going to do that? But then he said that he was going to work for Nigerians and make them proud by introducing new measures. That's what he said. That's the how now. And nobody also asks, what are those new measures?
Big question.
That is it. Because if you are just trying to use one word to cover up what is expected, we are going to break it down, keep breaking it down.
Now, isn't it too early to ask that of him? I mean, he needs to get into office, see what is existing, and know what
he
needs
must
to be there.
let his plans known to the people. As he steps into office, before going into the office, it's expected that he should let everybody know the plans he has and the plans he's coming with. So, but he said he's going to introduce new measures to restore confidence in the electoral system. And he said that his leadership would ensure the integrity of elections and deliver credible results. We've been told this countless number of times. So how are you going to do that? But he went further to maybe hint on some of these new measures, because when he was asked his understanding of the glitches experienced during the electronic transmission of election in the 2023 presidential election, especially the IREF portal, and how he would address them, and the purpose of both Beavers and IREF. And then his response was that there was improper configuration of the technology used. That's the way he responded. That's what he understands to be the glitches so much talked about. And the purpose of Beavers and IREF was to ensure election integrity, which was maybe implanted. But he also ensured, or made it also to understand, that there was lack of proper communication, that people were not communicated that IREF is not official collation system, is not part of official collation system. That the impression given by the INEC at that time was to make people believe that IREF was part of the collation system, but people or Nigerians were not communicated to that effect. In fact, the Supreme Court did say something like that when some candidates challenged the elections based on regulations dished out by INEC. And the Supreme Court was quick to remind them that we have to look at the electoral system, we have to look at the constitution, we are not looking at INEC rules and regulation. So they do not form part of the law. And when you look at INEC rules and regulation, they say that there will be electronic transmission, and then there will be IREF, INEC result viewing portal, where people can cross-check and see how this result trickle in real times. So it gave people this impression that, well, we are going to use what is in IREF as against what is collated at different collation centers. But Amopiton was quick to point out yesterday that such miscommunication will be averted, that he will be working with, just like you mentioned earlier on, Nigerian Communications Commission, National Identity Management Commission, NIMSI, and also service providers. So I know very well that he was also asked question about what he would do to address voter apathy in the country, and how he would handle voter and civic education to enlighten Nigerians about their rights and responsibility. And he said that voter apathy requires going beyond current efforts with modules of education for voters, including basic downloadable courses in various languages on handsets. But he went further to say that voter education should be introduced at the primary school level as part of upbringing to emphasize participation. That technology will be used to eliminate registration challenges, or processes could be decentralized if needed. That INEC would aggressively fulfill its mandate under Section 2 of the Electoral Act through extensive civic and voter education campaigns, including capacity building for INEC staff, political parties, and as well members, civil society organizations. So he was asked quite a number of questions, but I know many Nigerians, many of them felt satisfied. But my concern is, what are those new measures he is going to introduce to restore voters' confidence in the electoral system? I'm aware that some senators were like, I don't know what to do, to text him whether INEC should be responsible for conducting local government elections. And he responded that it will be too much burden on the commission, as it involves 774 local government areas on top of existing responsibilities. But he said, however, that upon assuming office, that they would examine the required logistics and infrastructure for such an expansion, that he would conduct audits logistics wise. Because you remember I was saying here yesterday when we were talking about Anambra State gubernatorial election, and I said, what is INEC doing about logistics? Because that's the area we usually have problem. If we say elections or voting will commence by 8:30, what plans do we have in place to ensure that it is what we have proclaimed?
Everyone who is supposed to facilitate that is there as and when. I'll give you an instance. During the last what's it called now? State house elections that we held, the supplementary that we held in Anambra State, we realized that in some parts of the state, material and staff of INEC arrived as and when due. Now, Some of them, if you say 8:30, it means they should arrive earlier than that. Telling me elections start at 8 and your staff arrive at 8. No.
That's no way.
That's not it. Your staff are supposed to arrive early, then start setting up, do everything. So much so that by 8 o'clock, we count the first person who is there and he's allowed to vote. Right? I also noticed something during the last election. I recall I also reported it back here when we were taking reports from what we saw in the field. I was wondering the kind of education they got. I got to a particular polling unit and the electoral officer there, the ad hoc staff, would accredit people and tell them to wait one side. So he was accrediting people and keeping them waiting. Telling them then, after accrediting everybody, you will vote.
No.
How about Anthony? Where is that done?
That's not the way.
So, all of these things we expect that if you say they are going to be fixed, you tell us how. And you better show us, would I call it, the tools you have on ground to fix them.
I think in that area, he was talking about investing more in the area of logistics because he said, according to Amopiton, that more investment will be made in logistics and technology to reach every part of Nigeria and potentially deploying innovations like drones and other secure means. And one thing we should know, we don't keep time in this country. And that's why some people will tell you about the African time of a thing. And that's what we deploy in everything we do. You know, definitely you have an appointment. Let's assume you have an appointment somewhere at Oka by 10 a.m. and you are leaving from Onitsha. Little calculation will let you know that you should at least leave 2 hours before that time, because Oka, if you're driving alone, give it, plus or minus is 1 hour.
45 minutes to 1 hour.
1 hour, but situations where you know that you don't own the road because you don't know what to expect. So that's why you leave more earlier. It's pretty safer for you to be there more earlier than expected.
Better to be much earlier than much late.
That's it. And then if you look around where we know that these materials, sensitive materials, will be deposited at CBN in Oka, and then INEC state headquarters is also close to the CBN, and where all these materials will be assembled in the commission state headquarters. So when would they be leaving that state headquarters to the different polling units? We have 5,720 polling units. You find that there are those in the riverine area where you need them to leave as early as possible, because sometimes you have to make use of boats. So how do you plan for some of these things? And I discovered that INEC usually contracts, I don't know if the transport unions still exist, like National Union of Road Transport Workers, but for the fact they don't exist in Anambra State, they do contract different unions under different umbrellas. And you'll find out that they come up with rickety buses. And in a way to deliver these materials, these buses do break down on the road. And before you know it, the mechanic will come, start fixing the boxes. The buses conveying election materials in an election day. You'll find out that these buses, good number of them break down. When people say these people have not arrived, their bus broke down somewhere, and they have called a mechanic. So do you do some kind of audit on these vehicles that will be conveying these materials? And what plans do you have should any of them break down? Do you have a support system that once a bus breaks down, the person makes a call, and then at that point of breakdown, it is also intercepted, or the intervention comes in, and then the journey continues? What plans do you have for things like this? Are they also capturing such things in their preparations? You must measure these things, and these are things that are very inevitable, because if we don't capture some of these uncertainties, you are not going anywhere. That's why you will hear that there are places they are polling, the polling materials have not even arrived. For maybe 10 a.m. it hasn't. 12, sometimes 1, because if you look around, there is no alternative to some of these things. See, these things are not rocket science, and there are places I think for sure that a day before the election, these things leave to the local governments. A day before the election, the materials leave INEC state headquarters to the local government.
And possibly even staff.
Yes. And some staff sleep. I have worked as a polling clerk when I did my NYC in Ogun State. I remember those days, how we did it. And then I think I did my own at Adodota, local government area of Ogun State. We slept at Adodota, the local government. We slept the very night that would take us to the election day. We slept there. So we were quick to move. Even those who are living close by, everybody slept. Everyone. So because guidelines will be given, and that's where both security arrangement, every arrangement is made at that local government level. Before now, different divisions of the police or security agencies within the local government have known where they have to make their own. So we have to arrive early and then get the process on. So yeah, there's a lot of challenges. I believe many of them we are not covered by Amopiton's responses, and probably they did not ask some of these questions. It's easier said than done. Yesterday, when he was saying that I will do this, I will do that, it sounds so academic. Yes, because you must understand certain nitty-gritties. You must also understand the environment you're getting into. And is you also aware that there are people within that circle that will also frustrate whatever effort you would want to make INEC to be credible or to make elections credible? So how is it going to address some unforeseen forces and people that will frustrate the integrity of this? They did not ask questions like this. But even if questions like this were asked, they will tell you, we know what to do. Because he said that definitely for misconduct of INEC staffs, those who may likely work with politicians, that they are going to set up internal disciplinary committee that will take care of that. And once every party sees a staff of INEC to be working or aligning with a politician or a political party, just flag us. Once you flag us, we are going to take appropriate action. What is that appropriate action we are going to take? Because appropriate action can be anything deemed appropriate by you, but not deemed appropriate by us. So you must be categorical. What is that appropriate action that will be taken? So they did not drill him to that extent to get every iota of substance from every expected response from any question. So I was thinking of that. So he used generic languages.
You're expecting more detail.
Of course, he used generic languages to cover quite a lot of things that we're going to take, some appropriate measures to ensure that our staffs do not engage in any form of misconduct or malpractice. That's fine, given, but we would want to know those appropriate things, because we would expect once evidence is deposed, the person will be prosecuted. And then he also called for Electoral Offences Commission to help, that the INEC as is presently constituted lacks the capacity to investigate and prosecute electoral offenders. And I agree with him. They lack the capacity. And it also has to be something we must think of with our laws, Electoral Act, for instance, where it will be made clear that INEC has the responsibility when it comes to investigation and punishing electoral offenders. Or maybe when we have Electoral Offense Commission, probably we shift that responsibility. These things should be
explicitly
made very
stated.
Yes.
All right, let's stay on the technological matters, because like some persons were saying in the street balance technology. Yeah? The truth is that the world has moved to more technological advancements when things like elections are discussed. I recall that the IREV was part of the technological innovations introduced by the Commission to improve the transparency of electoral process in Nigeria. But at the end of the day, we saw it sitting on, would I call it, a deliberatory pedestal. It was a case of, yes, we can use it, but it's okay if we do not use it. So we explicitly did not decide to base all credibility on what IREV gives us. And so when Joash Amokwito was asked about this, he said that it was supposed to be a safeguard for comparison, because the laws made by the Senate did not do away with manual collation. So it has put a lacuna there. You've not done away with manual collation. That means you are letting the two of them exist. And that means you are leaving room for whatever manipulations the system has been used to over the years, right? Now, are you looking forward to seeing Ampiton And do you see him getting the support needed to do away with everything concerning manual collation?
That has to do with collaboration of different personalities, stakeholders, and institutions. It's not something he's going to do alone. If a Meppeton comes and says, I want electronic voting system, these are things that will come as a form of proposal. And he must submit that to the National Assembly. And if that is done, if he submits that to the National Assembly, then if there is a review or amendment going on, it comes in there. So there are things he cannot do on his or alone on himself. There are many things he cannot do, just like what we are talking about now. I'm aware that as we speak now, there is no doubt that we have to look at countries with such population like Nigeria and how things are done there. If you go to US, you have population. If you go to Brazil, they have population. Brazil is bigger than Nigeria, population-wise. US is bigger than Nigeria, population-wise. India is bigger than Nigeria, population-wise. These countries, do you know what they use? They use electronic voting machines, EVM, with paper audit trail. That's what they use in these countries I mentioned. In fact, Belgium also use that, but I don't want to include Belgium because of their population. And one thing about these EVM, electronic voting machines with paper audit trail, each electronic vote automatically produces a voter verifiable paper audit trail. It's called VVPAT. So that tells you a paper slip confirming how the machine recorded the vote, stored securely for audit or recount.
Not like a receipt.
Something like that. See, one thing is this. Do you know that there is a lot of things, gaps, loopholes that allow people to manipulate election? Do you know that if we have a ballot paper put together in this, let's assume in this room, we put all the ballot papers used in the past election, you can't say who owns which ballot paper. Do you know? All the ballot papers put together, you cannot say this person owns this ballot paper.
Yeah, this person voted using this. You can't pinpoint.
Why? In a technology age like this.
So what you're saying is that with cases like what you mentioned, with that receipt you can tell this is proof that this is
this
my
person,
name, see my voter number, I voted.
See, let me say this thing. We have voter register where pictures appear, right?
Yes.
And why can't we have ballots where pictures appear? So your ballot is a ballot.
You know what that means?
Your
It narrows it down to numbers. If you were not there to vote, nothing to count.
Definitely, if we are trying to audit elections processes or election as it may be, as the case may be, most times there will be a law that protects the integrity because you don't make it open so that this person knows he voted for me, he doesn't vote for me, so that he can come against you. But during either litigation process or tribunal process, these things will be looked at. You find that if somebody who voted, whether the person is dead or alive, who used the person's ballot to vote, if your name bears Chisom Chinedu, and it happens that on the day of election, Chisom Chinedu was on election duty as a journalist, but there is a ballot that says she voted, it becomes clear.
And that's fraud.
That's fraud.
So you know exactly what you're pursuing.
Definitely. See, these are electronic voting machines, as I said earlier on, being used in India, being used in United States of America, in Brazil. These things are there. There is a slip or that will help, and then for anything recount. So it also does. You can do this thing manually. You can also do it electronically, but you can do both. But the point remains that we must be where other countries are.
All right, let's round off the conversation on the expectations on Amweton by looking at his promise or his intention to set up an ethics and compliance committee within INEC to audit reported cases of misconduct. How do you see that move?
Everything boils down to
willingness.
Not just willingness, sincerity of purpose.
Right.
Some of these things may be just so said to appeal to those who are listening, or maybe sound so good when you hear things like that. And then what do you expect? As most of the things he said, Mahmoud Yakubu said those things when he was interviewed. Go and read or check Mahmoud Yakubu's interview. He said some of the things, but he was there. What happened?
What happened?
So I think he said he will improve this, he will bring in technology. Technology will take the order of the day, that he will ensure that the electoral fraud is reduced to the barest minimal, that it will be so difficult for anybody to come. What happened? 10 good years. 10 years. So Amopiton is also sounding the way Yakub Mahmoud sounded. But I will not in any way try to not give him the benefit of doubt. Yes, he has to go in there. And then some of the things he has said he would do. Remember, he needs support. He cannot do those things alone. Some of the things he has outlined there, but they are the ones he needs the support of National Assembly, they are the ones he needs the support of the INEC staff, they are the ones he needs the support of Nigerians, everybody. So, one thing I like about Nigerians is that if you come out to show that you are truly neutral, they will support it. But once they start reading partisanship in you, they will try to even undermine you more. And then just like he said something about independence of INEC, he was asked, is INEC truly independent? He said the Constitution has given it a mandate to be independent.
Is it truly
the next question, if I were there, the question I would have asked him is whether he's happy that the president appoints INEC chairman, knowing fully well that the president is also contesting in that election. Would he want it to be so? Because he has no fault of his own for the way and manner the president appointed, because that is what the constitution says. But would he want it to continue? Nobody asked that question. Nobody.
Oh, well, we keep our fingers crossed to see how it eventually pans out. It's all hopes. We are hoping that when he gets into the office proper, we get to see germane changes, and of course, Nigerians can again count on the electoral process. We take a break at this point, attend to some commercials. When we come back, we'll be taking a look at some other developments happening around here. Yesterday, there was a protest at the National Assembly. Some persons are asking, why are you pushing for the withdrawal of Nnamdi Kanu's case? Don't you think that someone needs to get justice for the people who lost their lives in the middle of the course that he championed? And also, President Tinubu is under pressure. There is a move to drop the list that was brought forward for presidential pardon. Do stay with us.
Udala Radio 104.7 FM. Seriously authentic.
Ụwa ezughị oke o, mana dịka nwa afọ Naija nwoke maọbụ nwaanyị ebe ugbu a, ị kwesịrị ime onye na-akpọ gị n'ekwentị. Ohere na-abịa so naanị otu ugboro, mana nke bụ ezigbo ajụjụ dị na ya bụ, ị ga-adịkwa na njikere? Ekwekwala ka ohere ọzọ ganarị. Lee anya, otu kọlụ ziri ezi nwere ike ịgbanwe ndụ gị. Tinye Truecaller app n'ekwentị gị tata, mara onye na-akpọ gị, hụ na ịtụfughị ohere ịnweta otu kọlụ ahụ nwere ike ịgbanwe ihe niile. Truecaller, za ezigbo oku.
On the move again, on the move again. Anambra is Abga, on the move again. Abga is Anambra, on the move again. Soludo is our choice, so on the move again. Good road, Ideo. Free education, Ideo. Quality healthcare service, Ideo. New government house for Lighthouse or Kadua. Solution from city. Okoko New Heaven, Idua. Better security, Ideo. Many better life project, Idua. On the move again, on the move again. Anambra is Abga, on the move again. Abga is Anambra, on the move again. Soludo is our choice, on the move again.
On November 8th, vote for continuity and more development. Vote the Soludo Ibezim ticket. Let the solution continue. Abga, Onyaga na Wanneya. Vote Okuko.
Quality bread, Wendy's bread, for your family breakfast. Wendy's bread, Wendy's bread, Mama, Papa, they like Wendy's bread, Wendy's bread, even children, they like Wendy's bread, Wendy's bread, Ninta, Wendy's bread, you get it better, tasty, we go sweet your belly, Wendy's bread, Wendy's your Oba Chichoma. Wendy's bread is champion.
Wendy's bread, your tasty bread. You can contact us on our official address, Second Business Park, Enugu Road, GRA, beside Onitsha, Anambra State. We also have another branch at St. Michael Plaza at Tani Road. Also contact us on 070-1149-1571. Wendy's bread, your tasty bread.
Wendy's bread.
On the 19th of October, this month of spreading and possession, we're going to be having BBMS Blessings for Business and Miracle Service. Glory! Some years ago, I was having this program every month, and millionaires multiply. Blessings came upon businesses, came upon homes, came upon families. When we had the first series of BBMS, it was everyone a millionaire, every millionaire a billionaire. Now, it's everyone a billionaire, and every billionaire a trillionaire. Wherever you're hearing my voice right now, 19th of October, come here. Christ Embassy Mega Auditorium, 66 Limca Road, Old Road, or Onitsha, Anambra State. Don't miss it. Now, for further inquiries, call us on our telephone number 070-3300-4456. Praise God.
You're listening to Udala Radio 104.7 FM. You're listening to the Polity. Get involved now.
If you just joined us, this is the Polity on Udala Radio 104.7 FM. We're live on Facebook at Udala Radio 104.7. You can go there and see what's happening in the studio for yourself, and of course drop your comments and your contribution. We're moving over to the next story on our desk this morning. The Punch says under pressure, Tinubu may drop controversial names from pardon list. Also, I think it's this day newspaper that said no one has been released yet. Still under review. There are indications, starting from yesterday, that some names on the presidential pardon list approved by the Council of States as presented by the Attorney General of the Federation, Prince Lateef Fagbemi-San, may be dropped. The development comes amid growing public outcry for the inclusion of certain high-profile and violent offenders among those pardoned by President Bola Tinubu. The presidential pardon, usually granted to mark national occasions, was also meant to decongest prisons and promote reconciliation. Tony, we've often looked at the credibility of that list. You said to decongest prisons, and we waste slots on people whose cases, I mean, if you said to pardon, it's supposed to be, I think, for people who can actually exercise, who can live with this pardon, right? Granting pardon to people who have died. While I understand the need to clear their cases, is there no other way out of it? And looking at our correctional facilities, they sure need decongesting. Now that they're considering reviewing this list, do you see this happening? And who do you think would be excluded at the end of the day?
I think Mr. President has made pronouncement, and I don't know if this pronouncement he made was gazetted. But then it does not mean that there will be no room for review if there is any need for that. So, but looking at the outcry, just like we have always said, most times whenever there is presidential pardon, it's either tilted towards politics or moraboyism, or you can talk about links those people have with those in power. It's all about bringing in names you would want them to get pardoned, either from political friends, political allies, and things like that. But I have also listened to many people who say that sometimes do we take time to go and visit some of these prisons and look at people with different cases, what is cases, where, how many of them have served people that have nobody. You don't have anyone linked. So if you look at the persons involved, majority of them are politically exposed persons.
29% or so are drug-related cases.
Apart from drug-related cases that are politically exposed,
like Mariam Sanda.
Of course, they have intermediaries in different political entities or offices and what have you. So we are looking at that person who has been in prison, known by
The
the
common
body,
man.
a common person, and then with the intent of ascertaining why the person is there, the offense committed, how the prosecution went, and so see, I don't know if such details or such exercise was expanded to that extent. I think that's where these cries and hues are coming from. That if you look at, but then, just like I said earlier on, if you look at other countries, it's always the same. So there is no exception. But for the fact other countries don't get it right does not mean we cannot get it right.
Absolutely.
What is the idea behind that prerogative of mercy?
Besides, our issues are peculiar.
That's it.
Other countries that their correctional facilities as congested as ours.
You prefer to live in many correctional facilities in Europe than you prefer to live there to even live in the apartments in Nigeria that you are not under confinement. But in those areas you prefer to live in those confinements to living without confinements in some of the places we have here. That tells a lot. At least they value the lives of those who are still prisoners, those who are sentenced, those who are on different categories of punishments. So, but here is a different thing altogether. But the Attorney General of Nigeria and the Minister of Justice have said that we are going to review some of this. And you don't expect, once there is such pronouncement, that before you know it, these people will be released. There will be paper processes now. There will be paper processes because some of these things will be well minuted to necessary agencies of government, even the correctional facilities or correctional departments. So they will take note of some of the things. But Nigerians have made their thoughts known to the president, especially in the area of the presidential pardons. Just like I said earlier on, we have in Nigeria a whooping, prison population, not counting. In fact, okay, you can also count the number of awaiting trials. I have said earlier on that we have about 54,000 awaiting trial inmates in different prisons, and we also have about 3,000, around 688 on death row as at March 2025. I'm just, I'm not counting from March to this period because I know definitely there will be much more than that. But if you are to stop counting at March 2025, about 688 on death row. So if you look at that figure, did we also look at the broader aspect of it? Those who, for no reason, you look at their cases, you look at their issues, you may commute their clemency to life sentence. There's one called commutation and pardon. These are the two things when you hear about prerogative of mercy, especially as we have in our constitution. The people you give outright pardon, purging them of every legal obligations, and then those you commute their sentence to a lesser one. So I think that's exactly what Mr. President did. But we are looking at the list, those involved and those who,
regardless of what they get,
and
them
then
being involved in the first
there was a
place.
time it was rumored that there are people that commercialize this. There are
Some
people,
names we are smuggled in.
Apart from smuggling in some names, there are those that will tell you, I know Mr. A, you know how admissions in Nigerian universities are commercialized. You know how jobs for you to get a job.
So the committee that will set up merchandise this stuff.
Of course, they may have agents.
Interesting.
They may have agents. It depends on who gets what, who pays what. I'm just speculating. I'm not saying I have evidence. I'm speculating, but these things are possible. We've seen these things in the past. So, and that's why the list will be thorough. I think if I were Mr. President and I wish to do things like this, I will ask Nigerians, who do you want the pardon be given to? And also set up just a website for this. And you see Nigerians are digitally inclined. You see people pour their minds. You give them time to visit these places. If you don't want to set up a committee, then the committee will harmonize these responses. It's a way of showing transparency, accountability. You are doing something in the interest of the people. Most times when you say that these things are in the interest of the people, do you know what that means? That is what the people want. In the interest of the country or in the interest of the nation, that is what the nation wants, especially by those representing them at different cadres. So the constitution outlines that this pardon should be done in the interest, both in the interest of the people and that of the nation. So the committee will look at it from the angle of, is it also in the interest of the nation, even though it is in the interest of the people? So allow the people to come up first with some list, and then you will see figures, people just like they do it, or somebody that has a largest tally why it should be released, and with certain details. This will expose a lot of things. And any president that does things like this, people will applaud you. If you allow people to participate in your governance style, in your governance model, you will always win their trust, even when they know that at the end of the day, it may not really be what they want. But giving them that sense of participation means a lot for them. And even where some of the things they demanded or wanted, they still see it as being actionable. What are you talking about? See, there are things many politicians don't even know how to tap from these people, how to get the people on your own side. It's very easy. How to get people on the side of any administration, on the side of any, is very easy. You must align with them. You must see yourself to relate with them, communicate with them. See, I don't know, but most times some of these politicians miss a lot of things like this. So the Attorney General has said there will be a review. What kind of review? Did he also state the kind of review? Because review is also a generic term. You are going to look at it in what perspective, or is it to remove or to add or to look at those complaints made by people? So he didn't tell us the kind of review. So that review will something we must also take with every pinch of salt. So let's leave it at that. But I'm just encouraging government. There are things they can do to improve governance, and that's what we say, the need to improve governance. And we must also talk about how to work on our correctional facilities. It is saddening, it is disheartening, it's appalling that when you visit some of these prisons in different places in the country, though prison has been delisted from exclusive legislative list, is now down in the concurrent list. What it means, states can also build their prisons, but I know many of them would not like to invest there. But for you to invest in constructing prison, you must also invest in education first, because when you put your education system right, you will reduce the number of people that will be in prison. You reduce the number of people that will be in prison, but you must get one first. It's not all about looking out for offenders. You must both have kinetic and non-kinetic approach to some of these things. So we must also look at these issues of the welfare of inmates. Their welfare, very important. Many of them there, most of us that are free, committed worse. Yes, some of us that are free, moving around, committed much more than those who are in prison. Some of them committed. But for the fact that either luck ran out of them, or there is the law of natural justice decided to hold them back, or whatever you call either a scammer, or it doesn't make them less human. So, but I know that place is meant to rehabilitate, reform, and correct.
That's why it's called correctional facility.
That is just that. So since we changed it to correctional facilities, have we also made any gains in correcting those, rehabilitating those, reforming them? It's not about changing them.
Well, we're told that some of the persons who were granted pardon have shown that they have changed, have become of better character. Some of them have even gone on the path of self-improvement. Some of them gotten certified and schooled through the National Open University.
Then what was the yardstick or criteria to ascertain these things? Or do we have, because in every assessment there is a criteria for you to pass or be given a pass mark in anything, or either A, B, there is a criteria that if you have performance in this area to this score. So you don't just come and say these things like this. We must have some sense of seriousness in whatever we do. We have about 256 custodial and correctional centers across different places in the country. So, but if you look at that, someone will tell you that's even small compared to our population and size. But just like I said, I'm not so much concerned or interested in building more prison. I'm concerned in doing things that will reduce people going to prison.
Amazing. Things that will reduce people going to prison, like working on poverty reduction, on the education system, on employment, so much so that less people have the motivation to go to the wrong side of life. Let's go to other matters on our desk this morning. Yesterday, a group of Nigerians took a walk to the National Assembly. They said that their problem is with the insecurity in the southeastern region of the country. So at the National Assembly, they bore placards that bore images of victims of attacks by gunmen in the region. We saw pictures of the soldier girl and her fiance who were coming down for her marriage in Imo State, if you recall, some years ago, that was killed. The both of them were actually killed by a group led by Gentle the Yahoo, the one who was declared supposedly missing some weeks ago after his camp was raided. The bodies were found, but we were later told that there was no confirmation if any of the bodies were his, especially after he also came under fire. He also appeared on the radar again after he killed some of his boys, made videos of that for going contrary to what he called the protection that they have been about, and also possibly the protection that leads them to killing other Igbo people who are not on the same path or of the same ideology with them. Now, besides these two people, there were some other persons whose videos were, whose pictures were on those placards. A particular placard there says, "What is good for Simon Ekpa is good for Nnamdi Kanu." These people called on President Bola Tinubu and the National Assembly not to yield to pressure to discontinue the ongoing trial of the IPOB leader. Also yesterday, we were right here on the Polity when news broke that the NMA has certified Kanu healthy enough to stand the trial, Tony.
We talked about this yesterday, and NMA has made its recommendation. Did it follow the procedure laid by Justice James Omotosho to arrive at what it arrived? Is another thing. And then there are people that Justice James Omotosho say they will be member of that very panel. We are those people members of that very panel outside.
Are they included?
The Nigerian Medical Association, and if they had come up with that his ailment is not life-threatening. And then I also want to also add, there are certain ailments that may need, let's say, attention or medical attention elsewhere outside where the person may be currently receiving it. It must not get to the length or level of life-threatening before something will be done.
Absolutely.
Because if something is not done, it will also get to that life-threatening, which could have been averted if timely intervention was done. So it is important we look at it from different perspectives. It depends on the prayer presented by the defense team. But I want to also say the DSS facility, because I don't know if DSS has a hospital. I'm not aware, but we are told they have a clinic. And that clinic, according to the NMA, that it is fit to take care of such ailments. That's what it told us. But did they also measure such clinic and rate it not using their own standard, international standard? Because it's wrong for one man to cry, "I'm ill, things are not improving," organ failures, and these organ failures, they develop gradually. It's not something that comes.
They don't happen all of a sudden.
And you don't allow it to get to so bad to the point that it becomes life-threatening. But I believe these people are professionals. They must have made their recommendations, and for now the justice say, or the judge says that he can continue where he's receiving treatment. That's, I think, whatever the court says becomes the law. So for now, that is the law. So he has to go back and do that. But on the other side of it, we are looking at the protest, as many people saw yesterday. I think they call it counter protest, because I'm aware that Omoyele Sowore has been mobilizing people.
Has it happened? The protest Sowore is
It's 20th of October.
That means still about
Today,
3 days away.
Yes, the one Sowore is talking about is on the 20th. But he has been mobilizing Nigerians across different divides. He has been going to different markets. Yesterday he was at one market. I don't know the name of the market, but he was mobilizing them. Many of them giving him the trust and response that they will be there. But the key thing is that there are those who are also planning counter protests, saying that why should Nnamdi Kanu be out? He deserves the same judgment, the same justice meted out to Ekpa, according to them. But we're in a country where we don't look at what actually caused this problem. You know, one thing about life is this. I think there are basically 5 levels of aggravation. I don't want to start with the first one, the second one, the fourth one, the fifth one. Sometimes at the crisis point, it can be violent. But in the first instance, it was not intended to be violent. But it got to a point that somebody will tell you that I became violent because the security agencies were firing me and have to defend myself.
What is the justification in you becoming violent? A man setting his house on fire to chase away rats.
That is the irony. That is the irony, because you perceive that Fulani herdsmen, headers have been attacking, doing this, doing that, and before you know it, guns were handed to those that should not in the first instance hold these guns, and before you know it, they started doing other things outside whatever the plan was.
There were also allegations that the hijacking came after the #EndSARS protests. Some persons have said that the guns that were hijacked from security officials were used by these other elements to mask under the whole IPOB ideology to unleash mayhem.
These things could be true.
Could be true, but there is a contact point, which is the statements credited to Kano in the first instance.
But you know, one thing is this: why was he into this in the first instance? And that's what the state will look into. He was into this because of perceived marginalization, not that he's a criminal. He was into this because a particular region seems sidelined, and he felt the need to shout for them. In fact, we have seen people in Niger Delta who have done something similar. Asarida Kubo and Co. Tompola, as we speak today, they started like this.
But when we look at the Niger Delta case, the Niger Delta case was a case of, if I recall vividly, mounting against these oil explorers, and so their fights were usually against these people who work on the oil fields and all of that. But what we ended up having in southeastern Nigeria were fights by southeastern people against southeastern people who didn't share in that ideology.
You know, the point is, it got to a point, some of the things started. You remember, it first started with Wazirike. That's how it started. But then before you know it, it got into that of Nnamdi Kanu.
You know how many people were killed because they were called saboteurs?
You know, that's just the point. And let me say this. Most people, even in the Niger Delta we've talked about, there were people they also killed, they call them informants. Those who were informing the Nigerian state about their operations, they killed those people as well. But they were agitating for their own resources, right? Calling for emancipation of their own area, more development, more this, more that, exactly the same thing.
So what should we be calling for now?
So, but I think these people, we are doing their own in a way that if you don't give us this, we are going to make sure that there is no oil production. Now
against the federal government.
Exactly. No oil production. Then Nnamdi Kanu is doing his own. If you don't give us these things, we go on self-determined. In fact, we'll secede. So there is the melting point for the boats.
And for people who refuse to back this ideology, we put a seat at home. Remember when the statement about tell that lecture VC that is putting exams, something about head rolling, you know what I am talking about, yes. Tony. I cannot exactly pinpoint the exact clauses that were used, but you have been able to point out two differences. One, the federal government, you feel is, let me not even you feel, we know the marginalization that came upon places like Ogoni, for instance. The dirt Ogoni was exposed to. The fact that for people who basically had a livelihood on the aquatic system, the aquatic life was threatened, and at the end of the day, many of them were hungry. There was, pollution of water, land resources. They were adversely affected. I agree. The supposed marginalization in the southeast. Yes, we have all cried out about how, look at the fact that the southeast is the only state that even has 5 states, and all of these things count when we talk about revenue divisions. We agree. But the processes and the resultant effect have been the two things that different people have argued on. But my question at this point is, what should be the way out, especially where we hope that we do not degenerate into further anarchy in this fight?
I think everything seems to be under control, but we'll have to also understand that there is similarities between what is going on in North and possibly in the south and here, because if you look at grievances driving what Nnamdi Kanu is doing, it talks about marginalization of the Igbo people, human rights abuses and killings of pro-Biafra activists, and also unequal development, arguing that oil producing southeastern and south states contribute revenue but get little in return, and also historical injustice, especially on this part. But then that's just the grievances he has outlined, and if you look at these grievances, it can also match grievances that some people from the south has also people have also raised. And then you also look at how their own case was tackled. There was forms of negotiation, forms of talks, but one thing many people may disagree with Kanu could be the methodology through which he goes after these grievances I have mentioned. And many will tell you that the method may not really be the best. Of course, he initially used the Radio Biafra and then started issue of protest rallies and media campaigns to POB, and then before you know it, he started calling for peaceful agitation and UN supervised referendum. These are some of the things, and before you know it, the issue of ESN was the last part of it. That was, I think, where he couldn't have got into, but some will justify it saying that you cannot sit at home and things like this happen. But my own concern is, we saw what happened in Katsina State before we leave here, where some government officials were in the bush negotiating with the so-called militants, and they were hanging their guns on their neck. I was shocked to the bone marrow. I was shocked. Terrorist, a bandit, government officials negotiating with, and not just that, they were coming without guns, they were coming with their weapons, holding. And one we have
often decried things like this. I mean, look at the fact that Sheikh Gumi was in the mix at a point, and I asked the question, what kind of system do we run where people go to, that means they know where these terrorists are. And so if we decide to get them, they know where to lead us. But no, instead we go there to negotiate with them, right? And at the end of the day, you tell me that these people walk free, they are not informants or anything. Now, we understand the fact that there are peculiarities in the insecurity experienced in different parts of the country. While there could be similarities in these things, while there could be similarities, yes, all of them result to people dying, there could be peculiarities in their reason.
Exactly.
And of course, their modus operandi.
Of course.
At the end of the day, these protesters, there is an anti-protest going on now. To counter,
I think the anti-protest could be sponsored, there's no doubt. Because
absolutely,
what Chowore has been doing, we've known him for this. So you wouldn't say that somebody is sponsoring Chowore for this.
Well, this new one he's talking about is new. He's been carrying out protests, but this is sudden drive.
And for him,
for the Southeast,
and who would you say is sponsoring him? The people that are saying that they are doing counter protests. And one thing is this: we want national healing. There's no doubt. And I'm just trying to arrive that if government can negotiate with terrorists hanging guns on their necks, what about, not necessarily negotiating with them Nnamdi Kanu, but also looking into the grievances he has raised
for a non-kinetic solution.
That is non-kinetic solution, and if you look at it, that is what is going to bring in national healing, reconciliation.
So what would you say to the two protesting groups?
One, for me, if you look at those who are protesting, the youths, they are being used. They don't even know what they want. And for those,
don't be surprised, some of them are not even from the Southeast. They cannot identify with any of those.
And these people who are protesting, they have not protested against governments in Katsina State, Zamfara State, Sokoto State negotiating with terrorists. They are not protesting. In fact, if you look at Abuja, where these things are happening, in fact, it's even more closer. So let's
not talk about the fact that similar things happen and they are overlooked. This is a huge disservice to the Southeast. I mean, the resultant effect of all of the agitations. These two protesters, what I'm asking now, what should they be doing instead? What conversations should be led, and where, as against occupying the National Assembly, what impact does it make at the end of the day?
It's just to put pressure, to mount pressure on the legislators. And remember, just like we have said earlier on, we've heard from different personalities talking about Kanu's coming out, and I believe he must have learned lessons. Nnamdi Kanu, wherever he is, if you ask him, he must have learned certain lessons. When these things were raging, I remember I warned quite a number of people. You know what they called me that time? They called me all manner of names when I said this is not the way to go. I have my own issues. One thing about me is this: I'm very dispassionate about some things I know definitely will happen. And I talked about those you think are supporting you in this, they will leave you. And exactly most of my predictions happened. So the point I'm making at this point is we need national reconciliation. We need national healing. And Mr. President, from the look of things, people have said he's committed to this. Because the political solution, that's the only thing on the card. That's the only thing on the card, on the table. And just let's know this and know peace. Nobody will give you Biafra. Yes, if nobody has told you this, know it.
Okay,
you know why I will say this.
No.
Why I have to say this? I've studied nations. I've studied countries. I've studied even the people you are banking on. They are holding other nations. You're gonna talk about Europe. You're gonna talk about UK. You're gonna talk about UK. You're gonna talk about United States of America. What are they doing with Puerto Rico? Why are they not leaving Puerto Rico to be a full-fledged country? So, my dear, I've studied a number of things. I've studied countries, and even those that got it, I know what happened and how it happened. Some will tell you what about South Sudan. Some will tell you what about people in Ethiopia. You know what happened? You thought they were there. Did they? See, and every country has interest, especially whenever there is conflict. They are concerned about their interest. What is going on in Hamas, Gaza? If you told the people of Hamas, they would understand they wouldn't have started what they started against Israel. They are regretting. Everywhere is grounded to robbers. But some of them, they were pushed by Iran. Iran that pushed them. Where is Iran? When the conflict started, Iran went the other side. And then when Israel faced Iran, see how Iran was quick to reconcile with Israel. But they allowed Hamas to be grounded. But they put Hamas into what is going on. My dear, sometimes we have to reason. We have to. And you don't pick a battle you know you cannot win.
All right, we take a break at this point. Attend to some commercials. Once we come back, the phone lines will be opened. Just stay.
Udala Radio 104.7 FM. Seriously authentic. If home had a heartbeat, would you hear it? We hear it in chords across oceans, in plans that come alive at home. Journeys begin, doors open, arms widen, home welcomes it all. Morning brings Ofala, a day of blessing, renewal, and new beginnings. What brings us together? What builds our resilience? Ofala Festival 2025, October 17 to 18, in collaboration with Glow, supported by Best Gin, Hero, Origin, Udala Radio, and Zenith Bank. Join us for an unforgettable celebration of our culture, unity, and perseverance. Visit ofala.org.
ụmụ Chineke cherekwanụ n'ihi na ihe ahụ ị na-achọ n'ukolu ọ wuchiela gị n'ụkwụ. Nke ugbu a bụkwa Ukpo City White Crusade site n'obiọma ndị Ukpo Christian Association. Nke a bụkwa pụrụ iche n'ihi na mgbanwe nnwere onwe nzọpụta ga-adịkwa live. Isiokwu ọgbakọ crusade a bụkwa The Lord He is God. Onye ozi Chukwu etere mmanụ pụrụ iche Apostle Johnson Suleman ga-awụchikwa live n'Ukpo wee totuo ike nke Chineke n'ụdị pụrụ iche. Ndị ọbụla butere mmanụ Ambassador Chinyere Udoma nakwa Minista Edwin Alex ga-anọkwa live n'oge a. Ọgbakọ crusade a ga-akpọrọ n'ụbọchị Tuesday mkpụrụ ụbọchị 28 nke ọnwa Ọktoba afọ anyị nọ n'ime ya n'elekere 4 nke uhuruchi kpọmkwem, nakwa n'ụbọchị Wednesday mkpụrụ ụbọchị 29 nke ọnwa Ọktoba na elekere 8 nke ụtụtụ nakwa n'elekere 4 nke uhuruchi. Ogige Walter Eze Memorial Secondary School a na-akpọbu Boys Secondary School Ukpo na ncherịta iru All Saints Anglican Church Ukpo n'ime kansụl dị nke Ọfịa nke Anambra Steeti. A ga-enwekwa ụgbọala ga-ebu ndị mmadụ n'efu n'oge a. Maka ihe ndị ọzọ ị ga-achọ ịmata, kpọọ akara ekwentị ndị a 09039521048 maọbụ 08062978399. Ekwela ka akọrọ gị aka maka crusade a, gwazikwa ndị ya duno.
You're listening to Udala Radio 104.7 FM. dangerously authentic. You're listening to The Polity. Get involved now.
And of course, the time most of us have been waiting for is here: 0803-221-6973, 0803-827-6694. Those are the numbers for you to call to be a part of the conversation. Today, you go straight to the point, stick to the 2 minutes mark. Be as objective as possible. I reiterate, please be as objective as possible and turn down the volume on your radio set. Hello, good morning.
Hello?
Yes, good morning.
Hello?
Good morning.
Oh, good morning, my lady. Good morning, Saturday, Olisa Mbeki.
You're welcome. It's good to have you.
Good morning, Franklin, if you're there. I just turned in the radio because it's been so stubborn. Anyway, Odazet, Delta State, Nigeria. Now, Saturday, I want to take you on. Our country's willing to leave. USA and Biafra will never be. I disagree with you completely. You talked of Israel, Gaza, and Palestine and the rest. If you recall, since Israel got to their present habitation, it's not been milk and honey for them. It's always blood, tears, and sweat. Because they got all Gaza and what have you, harassing them. We agree. I am emotionally attached to Israel, but I also believe that they are all sitting on a bed of roses. And you know that roses are thorns. We don't recognize that. And then you begin to talk of other countries. England, Scotland, Wales, Ireland. Remember, Ireland has gone today. Wales, still working. Scotland, still working. England seems to be alone more. That is London. England seems to be alone most times. Then you go, you remember Spain, this Catalans and the rest. They are still fighting. That's Lionel Messi's country. And they are still working on it. You take how many years it took them. Then you also take the other countries in Europe, Czechoslovakia and the rest that have fled. Russia was large. Remember how many are there today? So it depends how you decide to work out your own. If you have brains, otherwise somebody like Nnamdi Kanu shouldn't be really a bone in the flesh of Nigerian government. But because they are so cowardly, so when they want to dangle the carrot, they bring my young man out and force my people that are so loquacious. We begin to talk from left, right, and center. They say, oh, kill him. Someone say, kill him, oh, kill him. The others say, I went there to talk to them. Who are you talking to? Is that how to get him out? Can't we be more intelligent than that? We are talking of Shauri. Shauri is doing the best he knows how to do from his own angle of liberating the people, my chairman, my honorable man. Liberating a people, you liberate souls. You don't liberate furniture or human beings. No, souls that are weeping inside. Yes, if I have my way, if I do have my way, I will have a Biafra tomorrow. I can say that again.
All right, that's your view, all right? And like she pointed out, she said if she has her way.
Who wouldn't want that? But the most important thing is this. Would you have it? And then she mentioned Catalonia, and she mentioned some other places. In fact, the people of Catalonia, remember how their prime minister went into exile and how he was tried, how he was prosecuted, and how he was served sentence. And today, are they not quiet? So I think she should go back and then look at the Catalonia quest to separate from Spain, and then find out if they are quiet or the process is still on. I think some of the things she cited, I think she has to be up to speed with current realities.
Well, also, I think when you address some persons as being cautious in that way, when they do not conform with your ideologies, that's part of the problems we are talking about, because they also can have the same feeling when you express your own views, and you might not also be comfortable with that. Good morning.
Good morning.
This is Chibike from Onitsha.
Let's hear you, Chibike.
So I want to ask question in terms of the presidential pardon, because I want to know if you have like parole board. Like in USA, they have something like parole board. Like if you, like a prisoner, if you serve, let's say like you have like 10 years to serve, you serve like 5 years, and you have good behavior.
That is parole system. We talked about it the other day.
Yes, like their parole system. I don't know if we have it in Nigeria.
Well, Tony explained the other day it's part of our laws, but not actually in.
It's not technically
it's not
operational.
being used. Yes.
I explained that. I think that was last week. I explained everything about parole system.
Okay. Coming to Nnamdi Kanu, I believe that Nnamdi Kanu should be prosecuted. Many people died because of that man. I don't know why we are trying to whitewash that man. The man committed a crime. He incited violence in Southeast. So we should stop all this sentimental nonsense.
All right, that's your opinion. That's your opinion, but let's not use words like nonsense. All right. Thank you for being a part of today's show. Good morning.
Good morning.
Yes. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. We can hear you. Please go ahead. Okay, Sunday. You have 2 minutes.
Yeah. Concerning the issue of counter-protest, in as much as people are against them, that those people may be people who lost their loved ones, like they won't be behaved by so many people, their house was burned, people who run away from their home for 4 or 5 years. But what I'm saying is, better we go to the political solution so that we cannot be losing properties and lives thinking that we are in particular thing. This diaspora of the thing has done more harm than good to people. Starting from the time the Biafra war was used and so on. So it's better if we look for other ways, either answering the Igbo nation. Because as far as I'm concerned, we cannot continue losing people thinking that we want to do whatever. So I think, look at what...
You should be rounding off.
How we reduce ourselves to depending on content creators like Showore and the very dark man. People see somebody jumping that the Showore is a very dark man in Koro. So I think let's understand this very well. Thank you so much.
All right then. Thank you for your contribution. 0803-221-6973, 0803-876694. Good morning. Are you there?
I am Gadim, Asia Pakezo, shuttling the airwaves from us tomorrow. Good morning, everyone in the studio.
Good morning. Go ahead, please.
Tony, my dear brother, you have made a very good account of the whole thing. God bless you. While I commend you, you shouldn't tell us that nobody will give us Biafra. It is out of the context and you erred there. Nelson Mandela was convicted and called a terrorist. ANC. Nelson Mandela, after spending 27 years, was given what he wanted by somebody. Yes. Mazin Nnamdi Kanu is a freedom fighter, not a journalist or a soldier or whatever. Yes. All the things that are happening around him happened around Jesus Christ. Nelson Mandela, Gandhi family, name them, and they all got what they wanted. It will not elude Mazin Nnamdi Kanu because he is destined to do what he is doing. Away from that, on Amupita, the new INEC chairman, he said it all right. He is now talking as God sent Messiah. That was equally what Yakubu told us. Let me tell you, Davids are being assembled. Tomorrow we will hear another language from them. From Yakubu, we learned English. Yes, that is how they roll. Now they are standing Uhuru. But let me tell you, Nigeria being a complex society cannot be settled by one man, no matter the idea anybody is bringing. It is only the ideology of Martin that can settle Nigeria and whatever is called and is around Nigeria. No more, no less. Thank you very much.
I have to let you go. Thank you for your contribution. Let's hear you. Good morning. All right, you need to reconnect. 0803-221-6973, 0803-827-6694. Hello.
Good morning to you, Chisom Chinedu.
Good morning to you.
Good morning to you, Olisa Mbeki.
Yeah, welcome. It's good to have you.
Yes. The voice of we just asked my father.
Let's hear you.
Okay. You see, there are some things that you shouldn't let anybody, or you shouldn't allow people to tell you that generated something before getting to know about that is being generated by something. Just a protest that's been conducted in House of Assembly. I laughed when you guys were talking about it because it's obvious that these people are being sponsored. Yes, because in as much as I believe that it's not everybody that loves him at the kind of his ideology, but going to that extent of going to the House of Assembly, National House of Assembly, to talk about how he should be persecuted, how he should not be released, this, that, it's obvious that some individuals have been paid. And I don't blame them, because I go with it. And in a situation whereby I go with it, people will need to do a lot of things just to get the money. No matter how small or how little you think that money is, people will try to get it. Because they have a lot of bills to pay, they have a lot of things to do with money. But they can't do it. So giving them this little opportunity, I think that they're going to accept it. And as well, try to make him kind of look like a terrorist is what I perceive as being unreasonable. Because before his arrest or him being incarcerated, Kano has been talking about the evils happening in the country. Before him being in prison right now, because I'm going to say he's been in prison because this is being in prison. I don't even perceive this as being in detention. Before all of this, he had came through. All of this killing has been happening in the southeast. And are we going to talk about the killing that happened right here in Onitsha, sometime in 2015? Are we going to talk about the killing that happened somewhere in Mpo? That somebody from my hood was part of the people that was being massacred? Are we going to talk about the one that happened in Aba? Are we going to talk about the one that happened that was happening in Imo State? Are we going to talk about the one that was happening in River State? All of these killings have been happening. Unknown government has been there. But now they are trying to stack up everything on the head of Nnamdi Kanu, saying that he's the one that has been, doing all of these things because he has been incarcerated. His members have been going on, doing all of crazy.
You should be rounding off now.
I do not subscribe to. You understand? And I subscribe to what Tony said, that nobody's going to give you Biafra. Nobody's going to give you Biafra. Yes. Nobody gave America to America. The people of Biafra are going to be the ones to get Biafra. Nobody's going to be the one to come out to say, when I don't try too much, I take Biafra. No.
All right. Your point is clear. We have to let you go. One more call and we head over to Facebook. Who is there? All right. You'd need to reconnect. The handle is Udala Radio 104.7 FM. Are you ready? Good morning.
Good morning.
Yes, good morning. If you can do this in
Good
a minute.
morning, my speaker, Tony Mbeki.
You're welcome. It's good to have you.
Good morning, my sister. This is the voice of honor beginning to go from our very same kingdom.
Let's have it. Go ahead, please.
Tony, you said you made a point in your statement. I've been saying this thing. I'm a war veteran. I fought in the battle of Biafra. I have the scar of the war on my body up to today. Even though people who led the war say, I led the war, but this time is not this way again. I said it during the time our young brothers are coming up, that is not the way to go. And I blame the DHS that time too, because this actually will be having meetings, peaceful meetings. They'll go and start shooting them. I made it clear on the air, I think in Odenibu, that I can come. When those policemen they will not put their uniform anymore again. They will be afraid of putting their uniform because if you put the ground, they'll come back to you. And all this will happen. But let us say this. Sudan had the same problem is where the mineral of sand comes from. And they are Christians. They try to deceive. They fought a slow war under the command of John Grant. But that John Grant later died on the Costa track. And after the war, the remaining people who are fighting for the freedom, taking treasury. The people who gave them independence, the United Nations, they call for the referendum. Nigeria government cannot give you the referendum.
All right then.
That's the only United Nations and the Secretary Assembly can give you a referendum, but they can't do this. Let of us, the land will come out. This one believe. Thank you.
Heading over to Facebook now. Sebastian Abigwe says, looking at the questions coming from the Senate President as regards to the screening process of the new, what we call confirmation of the new INEC chairman, it is really laughable. And he telling us on the new measures to put in place to change the old narratives is window dressing. My speaker, the problem we are facing in this country is our constitution. On no account, anyone appointed by Mr. President would go against the will of his boss. It is very unfortunate that in all of these unwholesome developments in different institutions, we are not yet ready to get out of this mess in our society. Amgbito can speak all the grammar, but cannot afford to go against the will of his master. Bartholomew Enede said, I want to sincerely thank Tony for his lecture today concerning the awaiting INEC chairman. The screening at the Senate yesterday is just a mere academic exercise. If you'll end up doing worse than Yakubu, that's what you say. Arinze from Inoma, by the way. Nigerians should rise up to do the needful, because the elite class do not have plans for the welfare of the average citizen. As for Nnamdi Kanu, if not for ESN, the South would have gone into history as a conquered people by Fulani jihadists under Buhari regime. Forget those protesting against the release of Mazi Nnamdi Kanu. They are hired, hungry individuals. Okpe SJP says when Nigerian politicians will change from ways of corruption to being normal. Okay, I think he's asking when will, instead of looking at areas which they are not doing well in their tenure, they constantly concentrate on 2027 election. Fair and incompetent. Not, oh, okay. I think you mean to say they are afraid because they are incompetent and they are afraid that they are going to be overthrown and sent to prison. His humble suggestion is that the federal government of Nigeria should make it mandatory for every INEC, judiciary and security agency in Nigeria to declare assets before general election. Warrior Chikwadorom says, what occurred in the Senate yesterday was just a affirmation of what Mr. President wanted, not screening. The new INEC chairman spoke extremely enlightened, but the issue is how can he achieve all he reviewed to Nigerians? Won't he be compromised? And he says, Tony, with due respect, Biafra must come because it's God's own nation, not a country created by mere humans. Basilugu says, INEC talks of using drones, but Beaver still fails. EFCC chases Yahoo boys while politicians walk free. The presidency grants pardons to those who destroyed lives. This isn't reform. It is propaganda dressed as progress. Mercy for the powerful, punishment for the powerless. That's the new justice system in Nigeria. But wait, if Beavers isn't working, what will drones see? If criminals get pardons, who pays for their crimes? And if truth no longer matters, what is left for democracy? Clement Odife, he says, is it that those in both legislative chambers, the reps and the Senate, do not know what to do or they are deliberately ignoring the truth? Yesterday, he watched videos where people were, or somebody was explaining the reason for Boko Haram and all spillage in the Niger Delta region. The Senate are not saying anything about the allegations. God save Nigeria. Chimuba Ome, he says, my speaker, about the speech of INEC chairman, hoping he's not political because many of the INEC chairmen have come with this type of idea and afterwards disappoint the masses. Okay. Henry Elu is of the opinion that the souls of the people who died yesterday from the container accident around Mbemena on the Owerri Road, rest in peace. Amen. He said that the angel responsible for being for making him a Nigerian has a lot of questions to answer when they eventually get to meet. Okay. Godswill Okoye, there is no way INEC can conduct free and fair elections, be it federal, state, or local government, when there is the chairman are appointed by the president, who is still going to run for another election. Anoms Emi, we see you. He says the service providers are really milking us through dubious promotions. The yellow brand, to be precise, he called them corporate thieves. Okay. We also see you, Eke Gunners, Madueke. Chimubalme, good morning to you too. And those are the match we can take on today's edition of the Polity. Tony, your parting shots in 1 minute, please.
I want to use this medium to appreciate my people and then those from Ebonese for what they have been doing. They are reclaiming their land. And I got this information. I've been excited that my people, the people of Osumo, have started clearing the bushes, clearing grounds, making pronouncements. They have come back home, trying to make things to be the way it should be. And then the people of Iseke, I think they have done something similar. Mbose, also something similar. Lilu, also something similar. Many of us have not returned home for quite some time, but it is evident that there is light at the end of the tunnel. After so much that happened that period within that area, it's good that you see videos flying on social media where they are singing songs, villagers, everybody coming together to say, let's go back to our homeland. And they have come back to their homeland. So I'm just saying kudos to them for what they have done.
Thank you for your wonderful analysis today, Tony.
Thank you.
Thank you for being a part of today's edition of the Polity, making a return next week. 9:15 every weekday down to 11 a.m. We take a bow at this point, and I'd always remind you as a Nigerian to do your bit to achieve the Nigeria that you desire. As a tailor, you sew that suit well. As a driver, you drive well. As a trader, you please sell well, and gradually would arrive at the Nigeria of our dreams. Good morning to you. I am Chisom Chinedu.
Udala Radio 104.7 FM. Seriously authentic.